10 Hidden Signs of Stroke. What your body tells you 30 days before. Hello, dear friends. It is wonderful to have you back here with us on Elderly Heart Talks. You know, there is an old saying that lightning never strikes without thunder first. We often think of a stroke just like that sudden bolt of lightning striking out of the blue, changing a life in a single instant. It is a scary thought, isn't it? The reality is quite heavy. It breaks my heart to say this, but every 5 minutes, someone in the world loses their battle with a stroke. It is one of the leading causes of disability, stealing away precious memories and our ability to move freely. But here is the hopeful truth that very few people talk about. A stroke does not always come unannounced. In fact, our bodies are incredibly smart. They often send us warning whispers, sometimes up to 30 days in advance. The problem is we are often too busy, or perhaps a little too stubborn to listen. We brush it off as just getting older. So today, let us sit down together and learn how to translate those quiet whispers before they turn into a shout. Before we get to the signs, let us understand what we are really up against. I want you to imagine your brain is like a beautiful, flourishing garden. To keep those flowers blooming and vibrant, the garden needs water. In our bodies, that water is our blood, carrying the oxygen that gives us life. A stroke happens when that water supply is cut off. It is usually one of two things. Either a pipe gets clogged, which doctors call an ischemic stroke, or a pipe bursts, which is a hemorrhagic stroke. When that happens, the garden starts to wither very quickly because it cannot get the nourishment it needs. That is exactly why knowing these 10 early signs is your best shield. It gives you the chance to step in, protect your garden, and say, not today. So, what is your body trying to tell you? Let's go through the top 10 signs. If you recognize these in yourself or a loved one, please pay attention. The first sign is a headache that feels unlike any other. And I want to be very clear here so you can tell the difference. We all get aches and pains as we get older. Maybe from the weather changing or just missing our morning coffee. But this warning sign is completely different. What you need to watch for is a pain that appears without any clear cause. You haven't been stressed, you haven't lost sleep, yet suddenly you feel a severe pounding sensation. It is often described as the worst headache of your life, hitting you hard and fast, like a hammer strike. It doesn't creep up on you slowly like a normal tension headache. It arrives with a bang. And here is a crucial test you can do. Usually, if we have a headache, we take a little medicine, lie down, and it gets better. But with this dangerous type of pain, it is incredibly stubborn and relentless. Your usual painkillers simply will not touch it. If you take your medicine and the pain stays exactly the same or gets worse, that is a major red flag. You should also look at the company this pain keeps, because it rarely comes alone. It often brings along severe nausea, feeling sick to your stomach, or a sudden stiffness in your neck where it feels hard to move. Some people even feel a sudden wave of dizziness. So here is the lesson. If you or someone you love has a headache that hits out of the blue, feels unbearable, and refuses to go away with medicine, please do not wait to see if it passes. That is a clear warning sign from your body, and you need to get it checked immediately. Now let's move gently to the second sign. This one can be quite frightening because it affects how your body moves, but recognizing it early is a true lifesaver. We are talking about a sudden strange feeling of numbness or weakness. But the key detail you must remember, the detail that separates this from just being tired, is that it almost always strikes just one side of the body. It is as if an invisible line has been drawn right down the middle of you, and one half suddenly decides to stop working. You might be sitting in your chair, trying to lift your arm to pick up a teacup or scratch your nose, and suddenly that arm feels like dead weight. It feels heavy, clumsy, or, and this is a very specific sensation many people describe, it feels like that arm or leg doesn't even belong to you anymore. You tell your hand to grip the cup, but it simply will not cooperate, as if the connection has been cut. This strike often shows up on the face as well. You might not feel it yourself, but if you look in the mirror or try to smile at a grandchild, you might notice one side of your mouth drooping down. Your smile might look a bit lopsided or crooked. The reason this happens is that the control tower in your brain, the part that sends orders to your muscles, is struggling for oxygen. It is trying to send the command to move, but the signal isn't getting through. So, if you ever feel this sudden split in your body where one side is working fine and the other side feels heavy or frozen, Please, do not think it is just a pinched nerve or that you slept funny. That is a classic distress signal from your brain, and it demands immediate attention. The third sign concerns your vision. And I want to be very specific here because this is often the most ignored symptom of all. You might be sitting there reading your newspaper or looking out into the garden, and suddenly it feels like a dark, hazy curtain has dropped down over one of your eyes. It isn't painful, but it is terrifying. The world might just go blurry, like a camera lens going out of focus, or you might start seeing dark spots and shadows where there should be light. You might look at a familiar object and realize you cannot quite make out its shape, or you cannot tell the colors apart properly. Now, here is the really tricky part that gets so many people into trouble. This vision loss is often fleeting. It might last for just a few seconds or a couple of minutes, and then, poof, it clears up and you can see perfectly again. Because it fixes itself so quickly, it is incredibly easy to rationalize it away. We tell ourselves, oh, I must just be tired, or I need to clean my glasses, or maybe I stood up too fast. We blink a few times, shake our heads, and go on with our day, thinking the danger has passed. But my friends, please listen to me. Do not fall into that trap. That temporary darkness wasn't just a glitch. It happened because the blood flow to your eye, or to the part of the brain that processes what you see, was completely cut off for a moment. Think of it like a light bulb flickering because the wire is loose. The light came back on this time, yes, but the wiring is still faulty. That fleeting blindness is usually caused by a tiny clot passing through the delicate vessels supplying your retina. It is one of the clearest, loudest warnings your body can give that a bigger blockage is on the way. So even if your sight returns to normal and you feel absolutely fine, do not brush it off. That was a red flag waving right in front of your face. Do not wait for the curtain to drop permanently. Go get checked immediately. Number 4 is about connection and communication. And this one hits right at the heart of our relationships. We all have those senior moments where we walk into a room and forget why we are there. Or we temporarily forget a neighbor's name. That is annoying, but it is normal. What I am talking about here is something much more profound and specific. Imagine knowing exactly what you want to say. The thought is crystal clear in your mind, but when you try to push it out, the words get stuck, or they come out all tangled up and wrong. You might try to say, "Please pass the salt," but it comes out as, "Please pass the boat." Or your speech might suddenly become slurred and mushy, as if your tongue has become too thick for your mouth. You might sound like you have had too much wine, even though you haven't touched a drop. It goes the other way too. You might be listening to your daughter tell a story or watching the news, and suddenly the words just do not make sense anymore. It is a terrifying sensation, almost as if everyone around you has suddenly started speaking a foreign language. You can hear the sounds, but the meaning is completely gone. This is incredibly frustrating, and frankly, it can be embarrassing. Many people instinctively try to hide it when this happens. They go quiet, they smile and nod, or they withdraw to a corner, hoping nobody notices that they cannot follow the conversation. But please, do not hide this. This is happening because the specific part of your brain that acts as your internal dictionary is being starved of oxygen. The bridge between your thoughts and your voice is breaking. If you or someone you are with suddenly struggles to speak clearly or cannot repeat a simple phrase like, "The sky is blue," do not wait to see if it gets better. That is a siren going off, warning you that the connection is failing and you need professional help to restore it immediately. Number 5 is a sudden, overwhelming sense of dizziness and a total loss of balance. Now, I know that for many of us in our golden years, being a little unsteady on our feet can feel like part of the daily routine. We might take a moment to steady ourselves when we get out of bed, or we might use a cane just to be safe. But the warning sign I am talking about here is completely different from that general feeling of aging. This is a sensation that hits you out of nowhere. One moment you are standing fine, and the next, you feel like the world has suddenly tilted on its axis. You might feel a sensation of vertigo, where the room seems to be spinning around you like a merry-go-round that won't stop. Or you might try to walk across the living room and find that you are staggering, stumbling to one side as if you are walking on the deck of a ship in a storm. You might even feel like you are going to fall over, even though there is nothing on the floor to trip you. The biggest mistake we make here is blaming it on our age. We think, "Oh, I'm just getting old," Or maybe I stood up too fast. Or perhaps I need to change my glasses. We grab onto the nearest piece of furniture, wait for the spinning to stop, and move on. But you need to understand what is happening inside. Deep inside your brain, there is a specialized center. Think of it as your body's internal gyroscope that keeps you upright and steady. When the blood flow to that area is interrupted, even for a moment, that gyroscope fails. Your brain literally loses track of where the ground is. So if you suddenly feel like you are drunk, clumsy, or spinning without any reason, especially if this unsteadiness comes with any of the other signs we have talked about, like a headache or slurred speech, please do not dismiss it. Do not just sit down and hope it passes. That is your brain telling you it is running out of fuel, and you need to listen. Number 6 is a profound and prolonged sense of fatigue. And this is one of the easiest signs to miss because we are so used to blaming our tiredness on the calendar. I am not talking about that satisfying, good kind of tired you feel after a long day of gardening, playing with the grandchildren, or cleaning the house. That is normal. What I am describing here is a deep, unshakable exhaustion that settles into your very bones without any real reason. It feels like someone has simply pulled the plug on your energy supply. And no matter what you do, you cannot get it back. You might go to bed early, sleep for a solid 10 hours, and yet you still wake up feeling heavy, drained, and lethargic. It feels like you are wading through molasses just to get across the room. You might find yourself nodding off in your chair in the middle of the day, or fighting to keep your eyes open during your favorite TV show. But it is not just about being sleepy. It is about losing your spark. You might look at your knitting, your books, or your walking shoes, things that usually bring you joy, and just feel too heavy to even pick them up. You lose interest in your daily routine because your body simply doesn't have the fuel to care. It is heartbreakingly easy to brush this off. We tell ourselves, well, I am getting older, I'm supposed to be tired. Or we wonder if we are just feeling a bit low or depressed. But please, listen to your body. This heavy, wet blanket fatigue is often happening because your brain is struggling. It isn't getting enough oxygen-rich blood, so it is forcing your body to slow down to conserve energy. It is putting you into power-saving mode. So if your internal battery refuses to charge no matter how much you rest, do not just accept it as a fact of aging. It is a warning. Number 7 calls for us to be quiet for a moment and listen to the rhythm of our own hearts. We tend to think of heart problems and brain problems as two completely separate things. But the truth is, your heart and your brain are best friends, connected by the body's most important superhighway. When one is in trouble, the other is in immediate danger. What you need to watch for is a change in your internal rhythm. You might be sitting quietly in your armchair, not doing anything strenuous, when suddenly your heart starts racing like you have just run a mile. Or you might feel a strange fluttering sensation inside your chest, almost like a bird is trapped in there, flapping its wings against your ribs. It feels unsettling, erratic, and out of whack. You might also feel a mild tightness or pain in the center of your chest. Not necessarily the crushing pain of a heart attack, but a discomfort that tells you something isn't right. The danger here is not just that the heart is struggling, it is what that struggle creates. When your heart beats irregularly, quivering instead of pumping strongly, the blood inside doesn't move smoothly. It can pool and form little clumps or clots. And here's the scary part. Those clots love to travel. Their favorite destination is straight up the arteries and into the brain. So many of us brush off these palpitations. We blame it on that extra cup of coffee. Or we say, oh, I'm just feeling a bit anxious today. But please, do not ignore that flutter. An irregular heartbeat is one of the leading causes of stroke. If your engine starts making funny noises, racing, skipping beats, or hurting, it is sending a direct threat to your brain. You need to get that rhythm checked before it sends a dangerous traveler upstream. Number 8 brings our attention to a sense we rarely associate with strokes: our hearing. We often think of hearing loss as something that creeps up on us slowly over the years, a gradual fading of the world's volume. But the warning sign I want you to listen for is sudden and sharp. You might be sitting in a quiet room, reading your book or sipping your tea, when suddenly a noise starts that no one else can hear. It might be a high-pitched ringing, a persistent buzzing like an insect, or a whistling sound like a tea kettle boiling in the next room. Or, even more alarming, You might experience sudden silence. It feels as if someone has just pressed the mute button on one of your ears. The sound from the television might suddenly seem distant, or you might press the phone against your ear and realize the line sounds dead, even though the person on the other end is still talking. It is very easy to dismiss this. We think, oh, it is just a bit of tinnitus, or maybe I have some wax buildup. We shake our heads, rub our ears, and wait for it to pop. But you need to know why this happens. The machinery inside your inner ear is incredibly delicate and intricate. It relies on tiny, hair-thin arteries to bring it oxygen. These arteries are often the first to suffer when blood flow is restricted. Think of your ears as the canaries in the coal mine. They are often the first to complain when the circulation system is in trouble. If you experience this sudden ringing or sudden silence, especially if it arrives hand in hand with that dizziness or unsteadiness we talked about earlier, that is a critical warning. It suggests the blockage is affecting the back part of the brain. So please do not just turn up the volume on the TV and ignore it. If your hearing changes in the blink of an eye, get to a doctor immediately. Number 9 is unexpected difficulty breathing, and this is a sensation that can cause instant panic. Now, we all know that as we get older, we might get a little winded after climbing a flight of stairs or carrying heavy groceries. That is just part of the journey. But the warning sign I need you to recognize is completely different, because it happens when you are doing absolutely nothing. You might be sitting quietly in your favorite armchair watching television, or just lying in bed, when suddenly you feel like you are fighting for air. It feels like the air in the room has suddenly vanished, or like an invisible weight is pressing down on your chest, making it impossible to take a deep, satisfying breath. You might find yourself gasping, panting, or breathing very fast and shallow, as if you have just run a marathon, even though you haven't moved an inch. Your skin might turn a little pale or clammy, and you might feel a wave of lightheadedness washing over you. We often try to rationalize this away. We think, maybe it is just the humidity, or maybe I'm having a little anxiety attack. But you must understand the connection here. Your brain is the master conductor of your breathing. It tells your lungs when to expand and contract. When the brainstem, the part that controls these automatic functions, is starved of oxygen due to a blocked vessel, it goes into crisis mode. It panics. It forces your body to gasp for more oxygen to try and save itself. So if you ever feel that sudden air hunger, where you simply cannot catch your breath, no matter how hard you try, and you haven't done any exercise to cause it, please do not just open a window and hope it passes. That is your body screaming that it is starving for oxygen, and you need to get help before the engine shuts down. And finally, we arrive at number 10. This last sign is perhaps the most peculiar one, because it often feels completely out of place with what you are doing at the moment. We are talking about breaking out in a cold sweat without any clear reason. Now, sweating is usually a good thing. It is our body's natural way of cooling us down after we have worked hard in the garden, or when we are taking a walk on a hot summer day. That is normal. But the warning sign here is when that moisture comes without the heat. Picture this. You are sitting in your living room and the air is cool. You haven't moved a muscle. You are perfectly comfortable. Yet suddenly, you feel a wave of dampness wash over you. You might look down and see beads of sweat on your arms, or feel your shirt sticking to your back, but it doesn't feel warm. It feels clammy, sticky, and cold. You might even find yourself shivering, feeling a strange sense of doom or anxiety rising up in your chest alongside the sweat. It is very easy to misread this signal. We might think, is the heater on too high? Or, for the ladies, is this just a hot flash coming back to haunt me? We might wipe our brow and think we are just coming down with a flu or a fever. But you need to understand the urgent message underneath that clammy skin. This is your body's emergency alarm system going off. When the brain is deprived of oxygen and nutrients due to a blockage, it goes into a state of panic. It triggers your nervous system to react, sending your body into fight or flight mode, even though you are sitting still. That cold sweat is the physical proof that your internal systems are struggling to survive. So if you ever find yourself drenched in a cold sweat for no reason, especially if you also feel dizzy or have that headache we talked about, please do not just change your shirt and ignore it. That is your body shouting that things are critically out of balance deep inside, and you need to seek help immediately. My dear friends, I know that listening to this list of symptoms might feel a little heavy. It is a lot to take in, And it is natural to feel a tiny bit of worry creeping in. But please remember, I share these whispers with you not to frighten you, but to give you power. Knowledge is the strongest shield we have. If you ever notice these signs in yourself, or if you see them in someone you love, promise me one thing. Do not try to be tough, and do not worry about making a fuss. Doctors have a famous saying, time is brain. It simply means that every minute you save is a memory saved, a movement saved, and a life preserved. But let's look at the brighter side too. We don't have to wait for the storm to arrive. The best way to protect our future is to cherish the health we have right now. Think of your body like a faithful old car that has taken you on so many wonderful journeys. It deserves a little extra care and attention now. That means keeping up with your regular checkups, checking your blood pressure, and simply listening when it speaks to you. If something feels off, even if you can't quite put your finger on it, trust that instinct. You are the expert on your own body. Life is such a precious gift, and we want to be here, strong and present, to enjoy every sunrise and every laugh with our grandchildren. So please, take these warnings to heart, but let them encourage you to live better, not to live in fear. Thank you so much for spending this time with Elderly Heart Talks. If you found this helpful, please share it with a friend who might need to hear it. And subscribe so we can look out for each other in the next video. Until then, listen to your heart, stay healthy, and cherish every moment.